Welcome to Marlene at Home, and I'm Marlene, the Adult Services Supervisor at the North Carroll branch. And today, this episode, I'd like to entitle The Lover of Reading and Libraries. Where did I get my love of reading? Well, it started at home at a very young age. I grew up in a home that was surrounded by books. The first things I remember is learning little nursery rhymes, little poems, Bible stories, golden books, things like The Three Little Kittens, Barnyard Animals, a golden book classic, little things of poetry. And I can remember the joy of learning to read. I grew up with the Dick and Jane series, and so Puff and Spot and all of those characters are very fond to me many, many years later. As I got older, even series of books like the Bobbsey twins. Tried to read these to my grandsons, and they just weren't quite as effective. There's quite a bit of language difference since the 50s till now. I can remember my sister and I being very excited about a devotional book we had that we'd read a story a night. It was called Pete and Penny. The book I can remember was in Shatters, pink and gray cover. We both just loved that book. I remember my elementary school library and Mrs. Fisher. The library was like really in a extra large closet, but we loved it. And I can remember probably the most stern discipline that I got as a child was for reading. I was in trouble for flashlight under the covers, reading late at night, and not going to bed on time and having difficulty getting up. I still have that problem. I can remember things like riding in the car on vacation and my mom being upset, like, you never look out the window, you just read books. And I remember the joy of when you arrived to the age of chapter books, series like the Bobbsey twins, a little older Cherry Ames, my cousin that went on to be a nurse, got me into the nursing series Cherry Ames and the fun of sharing books. I can even remember in 6th grade the book fair. And I went home and said to my mom, there's a book there I have to have. I think I want to be an airline stewardess. And it was all about an airline stewardess. So book fairs still stand out. I remember the big day when my mom had the World Book Encyclopedia salesman come to our house. And spread out all the wares, and you could get the plain blue copy, you could get the red and blue leather bound, or you could get the white and gold, and I was voting for the white and gold, but we got the blue and red. But then the kids in our neighborhood, all on our street, we were like the World Book family. I remember my mom talking about growing up with a book of knowledge in her family. So my mom made an effort, even as a widow and short on finances, that we would have books. Another library that was important to me as a child was my church library. I was introduced there to Christian fiction, and I loved missionary biographies. And then the public library. It was the same library my mom went to as a child. And, you know, it wasn't a quiet library. It was absolute silence was demanded. And I just kind of, I can still smell that aroma of those old books in there, and you better not make a sound. It was the first place my mother ever let my cousin and I stay alone. I mean, we were together, but by ourselves without an adult. And this old library that's still there just always fascinated me. And I can like see the dust coming through the sunlight in the old windows, and the dust would just filter down. But it was very, very special memory. I was lucky enough to go to middle school, brand new library, every book in the library new, and I just remember going, oh, this is heaven, like every book is new. And so that was a fun memory. And then of course there's high school and college libraries that were important in my life, serious reading. Then of course also, it wasn't all serious at that age of my life. Love letters became an important part of reading, and so that was included. I had a summer in college that I worked for the Sun Oil Company Research and Development Library, a whole new library for me, learning about what chemists and scientists need from a library, and so that was very important.
I think you really need to comment about when you were in school and the grades you got for gym and how reading impacted that.
Is this still running?
It is.
Comments from the cameraman. In 6th grade, I got a D in gym. The reason was that I would take my library book out and I would sit under a tree and read and would not participate in the activities of the gym class. Boy, was I in trouble at home. But I see that tree all the time when I go home to my mom's area. And that's a memorable thing my husband wanted to draw your attention to. Let's draw our attention to my husband. When he was a little guy, his dad was a college professor, well, really through his whole life, but he and his family, Paul's one of 8, they lived over top of a college library, and after hours, Paul and his brothers and sisters, they would be allowed to go downstairs, excuse me, and ride their trikes, or Paul was allowed to ride his trike throughout the library. So he started in libraries at a young age. Then when my girls came along, I can remember dragging bags of books out. One of my first memories, my youngest, Megan, was about 3, and she would always run into the library, and the first place she would go was to the periodical section. And her legs were so short, they would just stay straight out of the library chair, and she always chose Bride's Magazine. And she would sit there and page after page look at all these pictures of brides. And she had that love. I said she should have been a bride wedding planner because she just loved that kind of thing. And so anyway, that's one of my first memories of my kids in the library. Also with my kids reading at night, and I can't emphasize this enough, I do it now with my grandkids, but reading the classics, we just all love Little House on the Prairie and Charlotte's Web, and I could give you a long list. And oh please, Mama, please, my grandsons begged me last weekend, one more chapter. We went to bed an hour late because my mom fell for the one more chapter thing. A second generation, my kids and now my grandkids. Then it came time for my first daughter to go to college. And it was time for Mom to go back into the workforce and find a position to help meet those college bills. I took 2 part-time jobs. One was a substitute teacher for Carroll County Public Schools. I did all ages, but mainly my main love was middle school. I just did the schools right surrounding my house in Carroll County, the schools my kids grew up in. And 6th grade was my favorite. I did that for 17 years. But at the same time, I also took a substitute job at the North Carroll branch of the Carroll County Public Library. I was a sub for about a year, and then I became a part-time library associate on the adult information staff. I was at North Carroll branch for 4 years, and 14 years, and while I was there, the children's librarian, and some of you may remember Claudine Hanner, she kept encouraging me, you should go to library school. You know, like, Claudine, I'm working to put my kids through college and med school and, graduate school. And she said, you should do it. I did it later. You can do it. So while I was working 2 part-time jobs, and I also had another part to my life, I was a pastor's wife, and I was very involved in entertaining and ministries with children and women and music. But I was able to squeeze a 3-year master's degree in library science into 2.5 years. And my husband loves to tell people, is very proud of the fact that I was 59 years old when I graduated with my master's with a degree in library science. It's never too late. I guess you could say I'm a late bloomer. But anyway, I plan to work for a good while because I didn't start till very late. I'm really thankful for Claudine mentoring me, talking me into doing it. I thought I haven't been in school in 40 years. I can't do this. But I did, graduated with honors, and was really thankful. I took the first course really just to please Claudine, and I didn't think I'd be able to pass it, but I'm thankful that I did. The year that I graduated from library school, my girls each graduated. So we had 3 graduations that summer. I can't remember whether Carrie graduated from medical school or residency, or whether Megan graduated from college or getting her master's as a school media specialist. Yay, one became a librarian. But anyway, I remember that the 3 of us graduated at the same time, so that was very special. And I just can't say enough of how much I love working in the library. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay, so what do librarians do? Do we read all day long while we're at work? We wish. The truth of the matter is, often our customers get to read more than we do. We are often, we're reading a lot, but we're often a little of this, a little of that, reading book covers, backs of book jackets, the back of the book flaps, trying to, the new books that come in, trying to figure out everything and read a little bit about each thing. So we usually have I have an audio book, I have a book by my bed, I have a book downstairs in my family room. I'm usually reading multiple things at the same time. And then each librarian has a different favorite type of book, a different genre. And so we learn who's a specialist in what area, and run to the mystery person, or I love the 200s, the religious section, or nonfiction books, biographies, historical fiction. So we all have different things. So now we're not like this little Hummel girl that just sits around reading books all the time, although we would love to. And so we love to hear customer recommendations of what they like. How did I get from library school to where I am now? Well, while I was waiting for the position that I would really want, the one I have now, I was so happy to take a first level supervisory position at the Mount Airy branch on the other side of the county for 3 years, and it was a wonderful experience and very hard to leave there. And I just can't say enough about my Mount Airy family. But I was very blessed that then I applied for the Adult Services Supervisor and was able to return back to my home branch, the North Carroll branch, and I've been there the last 5 years. So I've been with the library almost 22 years now. So what does an Adult Services Supervisor do? Well, I oversee the adult department. There are 5 employees in the Adult Information Department. There are 3 employees in the Children's Information Department. But I report under my branch manager. I'm right under him. And one of my main jobs is to oversee all the adult programming. Now, in this last COVID year, that has changed. We can't have you come in and meet chair after chair, row after row for programming. So I had to learn how to do my job, and we all did, in a whole new way, with things like online programming and Marlene at Home, What to Read Wednesday. So it's been quite the year learning technology, never learned in library school, how to make videos and films and download and upload and edit and all that kind of thing with filmmaking. But that's what all of our last years have involved. I'm also the facilitator for 2 book clubs that normally meet at the North Carroll Senior Center, but are now on Zoom at this time in our life. And we were one group, one group that grew too large, so now we're 2 groups. Both groups meet the second week of the month. The Wednesday group meets from 11 a.m. till noon. The Thursday group meets from 1:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon, and we would love to have you join us either on Zoom or someday when we all get back together face to face. I also oversee, all of us do collection development, and each librarian has a section that they're responsible for. Right now, I'm responsible for the 100s, the 200s, my favorite, large type, I love those too. I'm in charge of fiction books with the author's last name beginning with K through M. I do the new fiction cube since I'm a nonfiction lover. I'm also responsible for the instructional DVDs and the biographies, another one of my favorite sections. And we'll change what we're responsible for every few years, but I'm very fortunate that I've got a lot of my favorites right now. Also, merchandising, making the library look great. Looking to see in collection development what needs to be reordered, what needs new copies, what's falling apart, not going out anymore. That's called weeding. I forgot to mention that my book clubs have become like extended family to me, and I love those dear people. I love when we get together monthly. Another one of my families at the library is my puzzle family. I started the puzzle table, and people come in and just all spectrums of life, male, female, all ages, and love our puzzles. And people that don't do puzzles love to come in and watch what the puzzle people have done. And so that's been very fun. During Corona, I've just tried to keep up with people from my book clubs, my puzzle people, phone calls, emails. Now that the library's open and people are coming in, just getting to see them face to face and say hello. So a lot of customer service right now over the phone, emails, texts, that kind of thing. I also, all of us are involved with community partnerships, with the schools, with businesses in the area, nonprofit organizations in the area. So we really do a lot of that. We also serve on teams. All staff members serve on teams, both in the branch and system-wide. So of course I'm on the Adult Services Supervisors team, and all of the Adult Services Supervisors meet monthly. Also, I am on this strategic planning committee for the last year, and that's a massive job. Every 3 years thereabouts, we have a committee, and we just make plans for we do lots of surveying of staff and the community and businesses, and hold all kinds of focus groups, determining what direction the library is going to go in the next 3 years. What are our goals? How do we measure whether we hit those goals? So that's been a very great learning experience, and very interesting. I'm also on the department heads team, since I lead the adult department. There are trainings. We all have to take, adult information people all have to take, and children's have to take courses, continuing education courses. The state requires so many hours of training over a certain time period. So not only are we taking lots of courses, but then we may be presenters of courses, branch-wide or elsewhere. Then of course you see us on the front desk. We're also answering the phones in many locations in the building. We, as a supervisor, of course, there's things like time cards and evaluations and all that kind of thing. There are so many things, parts of my job. The one thing I love about being a librarian is it is never boring, and it is never the same thing. You come in with a list on your mind of what you hope to accomplish today, and sometimes you never get to touch that list because other things come up. So I love that I get to be with people. The most favorite part of my job is working with people. The staff, that's another one of the extended families in my life, the staff at the branch, as well as the customers. And I just love it when somebody calls me and has a question, or calls me over to help them, whether I know them, whether I don't, whether they're children, whether they're older than I am, whatever. Books and serving people, helping them find the things that they want to read. And so that just tells you a little bit of what information librarians do. We are so excited that the library is on limited hours, but back to being open. So now you can come in, you can see us, you can also pick out your own books instead of you putting them on hold, or us trying to decide what you like when we talk to you over the phone. So I just want to thank you for joining me today at Marlene at Home, talking about me being a lover of reading and libraries.